I first qualified 21 years ago, and I've worked with parents whose children and babies were born with life-limiting and life-threatening conditions for those 21 years. I've specifically focused on specialising in baby loss counselling for the past 4 or 5 years. There were so many parents that didn't have the emotional support after such a traumatic experience, that you never expect that your baby or your child is going to die before you, because you never get over that kind of experience. It's something that you have to learn to live with, which is what I do with parents. If you lose a baby, you are in need of that extra support, that extra guidance, that extra help. You know, I can't see your broken heart. I haven't got an X-ray to see what you're going through, but we all know that parents go through horrendous traumatic experience, probably the worst experience that they will ever have. And it's about learning to live with the loss, rather than, as I said to you before, we don't get over our loss, but we have to learn to live with it. And not just for ourselves, or mum or dad, or as a couple, but for also if we've got parents with living children. So how you parent those children will change after you've had a loss, and a significant loss like this. You often hear mums that experience anxiety where they've never experienced anxiety before. Sleepless nights, which doesn't help. You'll often hear mums saying, I woke up and just thought someone was going to tell me this is a bad dream, and it didn't really happen. There's that whole kind of unbelievableness part of it, and that life really isn't worth living. What's this all about? How do I go on? Things are really unimportant, stuff that they might have really enjoyed before, just can't enjoy it anymore, or can't be bothered. Work is insignificant, and yet they may have really enjoyed work beforehand. If they've got living children, a lot of them will say that, you know, they sort of become like robots that you have to carry on. You know, you have to get up in the morning, you have to make them breakfast, you have to do school run, etc. But after that, they're just breaking and crying inside, and it's really hard to get through the day. Lots of dads will say that they've got to be the strong ones, or that they almost feel guilty for asking for help because they're not the one who gave birth. And you know, dads get really forgotten in this process, really forgotten. I think it's really important that couples have the opportunity that they might want to seek support individually, but at some point in time they may need that support together to kind of re-establish how that's affected their relationship. And we talk a lot about, in the sessions that we do together, we talk a lot about, you know, what kind of support those children may need and those siblings may need, and that we need to make it okay for those siblings to name that baby that's no longer with us, to talk about that baby that's no longer with us, and for them to have strategies as well for their own grieving process. You know, sometimes they might want to light a candle or hold a special teddy. Sometimes they will be having dreams as well. Or thinking, you know, and how do they cope when mum and dad are so sad? You know, how are they meant to feel? It can be really confusing. So we look at all of those kind of scenarios within counselling, and then we look at strategies that parents can implement. So it's not just talking about their grief and talking about what's happened, it's also giving them strategies that they can implement into daily life in order to help that grieving process. So not just for mum, not just for dad, but for the children as well. Families move on looking at the future, and that's a massive difference, because after such a traumatic loss, you feel that there's no future and you don't know what the future looks like, and it doesn't feel like life is worth living. So after counselling, it feels like that Yes, we can't take away that loss. The pain will always be there. The pain feels different to what it did prior, but it's still there. There's strategies that you've taken away that you learn to live with that loss. And life has hope. The future has hope. There is a future. They can see a future. They can predict a future. And despite that significant loss, and it will change them, you know, we're all humans at the end of the day, and none of us can go through such a traumatic event in life without it affecting us. It has to affect us. But it's about being able to reflect back on how that affects us and how we want to move forward.